Okay. Hello. I'm speaking to our class at Youngstown State University, Advanced into Undergraduate Poetry Seminar. And I want to introduce two poets who will be involved in our virtual class. First is Shanta.
Hello, everyone.
Shanta is a poet, and her book, Black Metamorphoses, is just recently out from Etruscan Press. We're very proud. And she is co-editor, along with me, of the project on your Blackboard textbook, Sign and Breath. Amanda Rabideau is a poet.
Hello.
Completing her MFA at Wilkes University. And she is going to be involved in our class, both reading and responding to your poems and your issue posts. So just your poems, really. Okay, welcome, Shanta and Amanda. Tell me a little bit about your background. Shanta, tell me a little bit about how you became a poet and the role of poetry in your life and what you do.
So I do a number of things. So I'm also a photographer, visual artist. I write across genres. And I first came to poetry. I first wrote in my journal and wrote poetry. It didn't occur to me that I could speak it as an utterance to share with others. So the poetry was very private through my teenage years. And before I ever could earn calling myself a poet, it was like on, off, like this kind of dysfunctional long-term relationship with poetry, influenced by Emily Dickinson. Had a love of, and got introduced to T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. Also, Yo MTV Raps did play a role, even though that wasn't just the only stitching of what I would listen to. So music in my household across different areas. And I think that informed rhythm and meter and all sorts of things having to do with words and lyricism.
Amanda, let me ask you the same question.
Yeah, music, I was like, yes. I used to just print, I used to write out song lyrics. It was before the internet.
Yeah.
And I realized how the lyrics of a song were what pulled me, in addition to the music. I always wanted to see what words were being used. But I never thought of myself as a writer. I went into the Air Force at age 17, where I translated Russian. And when you translate, you realize the power that's in a word. And one word can have a meaning, but it can have so many different connotations to the people that speak that language that you might not understand unless you're a native speaker. And so translating Russian really gave me such a respect for the gravity and power of just one word. And that kind of led into poetry, because I feel like poetry is where words are condensed into a space where they mean more than in prose. So yeah, after I got out of the Air Force, I started reading. I started with Sylvia Plath, just because I was kind of at that age that she was when she was writing and experiencing some similar things with having children and things. And then I discovered Jane Hirshfield, and that led me into contemporary poetry. And I became a voracious reader. And then eventually, once you start reading it, you're like, I want to write, you start having ideas. I want my ideas on a page too. So here I am.
Can I add too, like that zigzag? I love the fact that it's zigzaggy, because my path was zigzaggy too. Like undergrad was women, gender, and sexuality, and my first graduate degree is an MBA. So like writing, I didn't like identify with even being an artist until like way later. That came with some time and even claiming the word, calling myself a poet or a writer or artist or photographer. It's zigzaggy.
It took me being in this program for a year and a half before I was comfortable saying I'm a poet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It wasn't until my capstone reading. So yeah.
Well, interestingly, our students, virtually all of them were in the introductory workshop last term, and they did some translation. So they're not unfamiliar with that project.
Yeah.
But this semester, of course, their textbook is a yet to be published work called Sign and Breath, and I hope you've all found that on Blackboard. As you'll see, it's still very much in progress, and Shanta and I are working on that. Shanta, tell us a little bit about that project.
So, Sign and Breath is really all about the page that sings and also thinking about voice and talking to writers across different genres. Poets, yes, also prose writers, and really seeking how do they conceive or think of voice, but not in terms of find your voice or the voice, but like what are they thinking? How do they think of orality on the page? Verses, or in addition to how they might perform words, thinking about if they're writing within the tradition, are they going against the tradition? And also one of the unique things about Sign and Breath that I find is you see a work, whether it's a poem or a piece of prose on one page, right in the context of a conversation with that author. And so you get to see different facets. It's like looking at a sculpture. You get to see the artifact itself, and then you get to walk around it and also see what the actual words are that they created.
And Amanda has been kind enough to develop the issue posts that I hope you've all found on the course content in Blackboard. Tell us a little bit about how you did that, Amanda, and what your response to the work that you were reading was.
Yeah, when I was going through the manuscript, I would read the poem first and then read the conversation, and I would meditate with it for a little bit, right? I'd want to, like, how does the poem feel to me? What does it mean to me? How does the conversation create a conversation with the actual work that, that the author submitted? And then from there, a question would almost jump out to me. Sometimes I would think, wow, could be very inspirational for students to create their own poem. So it works more like a prompt. Other times the poem really brings something up that could allow us to dig deeper, maybe something about orality or craft or inspiration. So I would let the poem and the conversation kind of dictate where the question would go. And as I was reading, I was really interested in the different interpretations of what sings, because the poems are all so different. Some authors were very concerned with the way the words actually sound. I'm interested in how they're using space on the page when they're thinking of it singing, because silence is also part of song. I love the way that there's a conversation woven, and I can't wait to see when it's a book, which down the road, how it looks when it's all put together.
And also how the pieces may be in conversation with each other.
Exactly.
I think that's what's really unique about Sign and Breath, or sign, if we think of semiotics, like how do things communicate to us without ever hearing it, but you may see it, but also in conjunction with like actual breath, taking breath in the space between words or letters, or how it sits in the body. Should be really fascinating.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for these young writers?
Go first.
The two things that come to mind are networking. If you do want to take poetry and run with it, try to meet as many writers as you can, even outside of poetry. People who write fiction, nonfiction, artists are great to collaborate with, as you did with your book. And also learn to hear the word no. There are a lot of people trying to publish poetry right now, and an editor's opinion about poetry is so nuanced, and it doesn't mean that your poems don't have merit. It just means that they didn't find their home, but don't give up, right?
My advice would be to think on working on your internal alchemy. There's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of people telling you what you should do, or maybe saying, well, you can't make money in poetry, or like, good luck with that. There are going to be people even maybe telling you what you should write or what you should do alongside of your career as an artist, and as crafters of words. So work on your internal system to shut out the noise, and also try to tune your own ear to your own drum. And that also means build your community. So your community family can mean so many different things. Doesn't have to be blood. It also is in addition to others within the community of creating, and expand that. And I also would say, in addition to don't just read a lot of poetry, watch a lot of things, take in a lot of art. All of that for me as an artist, I'm voracious about taking in everything. And don't be afraid of research. Research will be very helpful to you for your craft.
I'll be sending you the URLs to Amanda's and to Shanta's websites so that you can follow up and see what they've been up to and see what they're doing. And I'm going to ask us to conclude by having each of them read a poem of their own.
Oh, okay, I'll start. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so this is a poem called Agape or Agape. The meaning can be up to the reader. This is a desert scene. Imagine the cactus, fever green, hunger strewn across sands, but we are driving 80, so Sonoran streams out the window. Morning moon shining, white atop blue. Let's call it cerulean. Imagine the eagles echo over fricative land. This is no blood meridian. This is a road trip pastoral where the sky picks at me like a naked vulture neck deep in the thick of me. I smile red, spilled open, heaviest parts plucked clean, arid syllables, chambered heart, chattering eye. The sky unties me. Picture it, pining spines of prickly pear, sweet agave, air so soft that time rises, and dear God, the heat, what's left of me, goes with it.
So fair. We don't even get to discuss that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I love that. I love the sounds of it. I'm going to read Tituba's last words from Black Metamorphosis. Stolen body, stolen land. Of course I did it. What did you think was going to happen?
Thank you, Amanda Rabideau and Shanta Lee.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you all in class.
Bye.